Welcome to the Omnibus Show, a program for people who are interested in everything, with deep conversations on a wide variety of subjects. And now your host, Dave Gibbs.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Omnibus Show, the program for people who are interested in everything, with deep conversations on a wide variety of subjects. This week's guest is John M. Murphy, who is the chairman of the Ascension St. Vincent's Foundation, and he's also the emeritus president of the Ivy Tech Foundation, and a number of other top businesses that he's been involved with. It's I could go on. John, it is great to have you with us today.
I'm excited to be there, Dave. Thank you.
Yeah, great. It is really fabulous. You've been with a lot of the top 50, 500 companies, and now you've been with Ascension St. Vincent and Ivy Tech, who've really made their history here in this region is quite strong. Can we go back from your origin?
We sure can.
Now, we're in Indiana, but you are from?
I am born and reared in Bronx, New York. I was brought up, excuse me, in the 1950s. If my memory serves me right, the Yankees dominated baseball at the time. I grew up probably about 5 miles from Yankee Stadium.
Wow.
I was a city rat. It was a neighborhood. I probably had my 25 best friends within 2 blocks. I had 25 cousins within 2 miles. So everybody was right there. The grade school was right up the block. We had a schoolyard that we played ball in. We had a baseball field probably 200 feet from my house. So when I look at the perfect bringing up, everything was walking distance. The subway was about 8 or 9 blocks. It was all right there.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't know anything other. My parents did have cars, but you really didn't need a car because we had public transportation and subways, buses, everything.
That's great. That's great to know, because it's like, for most people, as people move out from New York and beyond, it's like you really have to have a car or public transport to get around. And where we are here, you have to have a car basically to get to where you're going. And New York has changed so much, and it's great to hear stories about growing up in that period. And I don't know, are the Yankees they're still up there at the top?
They're having actually a pretty good year. Yes, last year they stunk, and this year is really good. But my high school was probably a mile away, and my college, I went to St. John's University.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably 5 miles away.
Yeah, it's just right there in New York. That's the nice advantage of having a city, especially in those days where everything was right there and was available. Now, after work, before you had told me about when you started to work after school, you had worked in the World Trade Building.
My first job out of college. So I went to college and picked up an accounting degree. And probably the only reason I went into accounting is because my first course I got an A, and not so well in the other courses.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a little bit of research, and accountants got paid pretty well. And I did land a very big job getting out of there, $200 a week. Oh,
that's good.
Which for me was phenomenal, because I was working in factories before that during college. My first job was with the insurance department with the state of New York, and we were in a building on John Street, down there, Wall Street, and then the World Trade Center was going up. One of my buddies worked on it. I was a construction worker in college, and they couldn't fully populate it, so they asked us to move in. We were a state agency. We moved in into the 82nd floor, South Tower, and if I could give you an idea of what the elevator looked like, you could put any Cadillac that you've ever owned or know about onto that elevator. It was gigantic. You could probably put a small truck, and it shot up so quick that your ears popped. And the little ladies were screaming on the way up, and their ears were popping. So they had to slow the elevators down. It took 2 elevators to get to the 82nd floor.
So it would take you up to a certain level, and then you had to switch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of
I know
like
some
48
old
or something.
buildings do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So up to the 82nd floor, and on a windy day,
Did you feel the sway?
You really didn't feel it because, I mean, and I'm not a physics major, but the toilets kind of overflowed at times.
Did they really? Wow.
Yeah.
It's like being on a ship.
Yeah, it was. We were up there overlooking the Hudson River.
Yeah, that must have been a beautiful view. But that's so historical for people now, and to have that experience. Have you been up in the new tower since that they've put up since?
A couple times, and I have to tell you, I was a little bit worried going up the first time. When you get in the elevator, it goes straight up to, oh God, I can't remember what floor it went to, 126.
So it doesn't do the switch, it just goes straight all the way.
But they show you a video while you're going up of Lower Manhattan and the history of Manhattan.
Wow.
Very incredible. But when I got up there, I do have to tell you, even though I was in the World Trade Center in the 70s, I was in Indianapolis when 9/11 occurred. I did look around, and I was a bit worried. I did look for planes flying by and things like that.
Yeah, I would think that anybody would get. I think that would be like the automatic feel right now, that if somebody was going up there, that would be sort of the strange feeling you would get from that experience. But thank you for sharing that, because that's history, and most people don't know that experience of having worked and lived in such a historically significant building and a big part of New York's world.
Can I give you one thing that I found very interesting? If you remember back, I can't remember what years, it would have been in the 70s. We had the guy who did the High Wire Act in between the two buildings.
Oh yeah.
So I took
with the weight stick or whatever you call that.
Yeah, there you go. But I did see him on 60 Minutes a few years back, him explaining what he did. But we all came out of the subway one morning, and everybody was looking up, and there he was walking across. It was like, my God, how the heck did he do that?
That's insane.
Yeah. So that's one of my vivid memories of coming out of the subway, watching him up there.
Yeah.
110 stories up.
Only in New York, right?
Only in New York City at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Although back then that probably was they probably arrested him.
I think they did. I think they picked him up, and he was trespassing at the very minimum.
Yeah, exactly.
And, but hopefully he wrote a book and he made a few dollars on it.
Yeah, he probably did, because I don't remember his name, but I think
he was French.
He was a French guy, and I think he made a name for himself by doing that in significant buildings and so forth.
Hope he did.
Well, that is just fascinating. Well, thank you for your New York memories. I always love hearing people's stories from where they grew up and where they've had their life. But you got into business, and what was the pivotal moment for you in your business life? Because you've worked with some really top companies, with the company that became Citigroup, Citicorp, Anthem, Wells Fargo. I mean, these are just top companies in the world. What was that, the shift? Was it from being at St. John's, or was it along the way?
Well, I have this saying, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I'm not sure I worked very hard before that, but I did get pretty lucky. When I was a senior at St. John's, and I graduated on time, that was important to me. I went into the counselor's office for a job, and they said, hey, all the companies were here already. There are no jobs. You're late. Where have you been? So I made a mental note, okay, don't do that again. But, it's a once-in-a-lifetime chance. So as I was leaving, the lady said, hey, we have one cancellation, and it's with the insurance department in New York. I said, well, why don't you put me down for that? I had no clue I was going to go into insurance. Yes, I did have an accounting degree. I thought I'd go to an auditing firm or a public firm or something like that. But I took the interview and I got the job. So getting into insurance was, I tripped and got lucky and picked myself up. Mm-hmm. Became an auditor, spent 3.5 years with them, auditing at the World Trade Center, and auditing companies like MetLife and New York Life, big insurance companies, which was a great experience. Then I went to Geico on Long Island, and I was their chief accountant. And all the time, auditing, accounting, I didn't feel very comfortable. If I had taken a personality test, I don't think I would have went in that direction.
I see.
So at that time, I went back to school and picked up my master's degree in finance and investment analysis, and I thought that might be something I might be interested in. And I was, and that was a big turning point for me because sitting in my classes for my MBA, I realized what the professors were trying to teach us, undergrad, which I wasn't really paying much attention to.
Gotcha.
So it kind of made me, and it was like, wow, this is an epiphany. This is great. This is business. I like it.
Nice.
Took the job, applied for a budget job in Baltimore with a commercial credit company, which is Citigroup today. And I came across a mentor by the name of Pat Sheridan. He's a Notre Dame grad, CPA, MBA, a couple other degrees, Mensa, from Detroit. And he was CEO, and he said, hey, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, and I was probably scared to death. I was 28 or 29. I said, well, I'm going to be a CEO. What else are you going to tell a CEO? Okay,
of course.
I want to be a CEO. Well, how are you going to get there? I said, well, I'm going to get marketing and sales experience. I have operations now, and I have accounting, and I have finance, and all this other stuff. I said, okay, so where are you going to get that? He was a pretty tough guy. And I said, well, either I'm going to get it here, or I'll go back to New York. So within a couple months, I was in a sales job, and I became their number one salesperson, regional vice president of sales, and it changed my life. If I had taken a personality test, I would have skipped 10 years on accounting. Accounting is good background, for any business job because you learn how to read a balance sheet and a profit and loss statement. So I went into sales, and I was their top sales guy for 4 years. I accepted the top sales award in Athens, Greece, which was pinnacle of what I was doing. And then folks from New York came, and we were owned by Control Data. Jamie Dimon came in, who now runs JP Morgan Chase, and Sandy Weil, and they were going to take commercial credit company public. They sold my division to a Texas company, and really what they wanted was the asset in the book of business, but they took one employee, and that was me, because by then I was heading all the sales.
Right.
So I went to Texas for a year. Ultimately, would have been promoted to head all marketing there. But in the meantime, my mentor, Pat Sheridan, was asked to come to Indianapolis with Anthem as the CFO, and he invited me out. We bumped into each other in the airport. We were pretty good friends. And he said, well, I'll be in touch. And 2 weeks later, he called, and he really cut the deal with my wife first on a Saturday morning. And
of course.
And by the time I got on the phone, the deal was done, and we were going to Indianapolis, which for my wife was better than, Houston, Texas. So we came here. I was president and CEO of Anthem Life. It was my first CEO job. I was 35 years old, and, I was a pretty lucky guy, and we were off and running and spent 17 great years at Anthem.
At 35?
At 35, I came to, yes.
Yeah, wow. Because it's like that goal that you had mentioned to Pat before that. So that's like 7 years. That's pretty doggone good.
And I got to tell you, when Pat offered me the job, I told him no. I said, I don't want to be a CEO. He said, didn't you tell me how many years ago you wanted to be a CEO? Well, I probably wasn't being totally honest. I'd probably like to head distribution or be marketing and sales. He said, you can do it as a CEO of an insurance company. So I took that job, and I probably had 5 or 6 other jobs, ultimately top 8 in Anthem, and part of the team that took them public in 2001. In fact, we were on Wall Street taking the company public in October of 01, and 9/11 had just happened in September, and my old building was still smoking. And that was quite a sight. In fact,
I bet that was a shock.
Shock, fenced in. There were flowers. 3,000 or 4,000 people had died. In fact, one of the guys I went to high school with, he married a girl across the street from me. He was the first lieutenant in the fire department to die there.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, well, they were amazing times. They were very different and difficult for the nation.
Yeah, it really was. But
so I had a mentor. I was with him in Baltimore for almost 10 years and 17 years at Anthem. So how lucky could I get? And then I became very close. The second mentor would be the guy who founded and took Anthem public as a chair, Ben Lytle. And he took me under his wing, and we did a lot of great things. Had a lot of great companies for them. We made a lot of money for them, and I ran Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Indiana and Kentucky at the same time, so I got to spend a lot of time in Kentucky, which was great.
Yeah.
So lucky guy.
You're flying high up there with all this life experience. No, that is great, John. And to have a mentor is that's so huge to have someone and for them, especially when you're working together. It's one thing when you meet someone and they are giving you some advice, but a lot of times it's, you get your advice from this person and then you go on and you go out into the woods on your own and you fend for yourself. But to be able to work with them, that takes it to a whole nother level.
Pat had a unique way to do it. First of all, the smartest guy I've ever met. Menza. And he could take a very difficult subject and boil it down to simple terms, which I think is a huge sign of intelligence.
Yeah.
And he'd have a way about it. I mean, he was grew up in Detroit. His father was a police officer in Detroit, a detective, so he's a tough guy. And, we'd be in meetings together, and he'd tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, why don't you come by my office, and I'll tell you how you screwed up. Oh, thank you very much. I enjoyed those discussions immensely.
I'd love to have had a mentor like that.
Yeah.
I would have done a lot better in life, with having someone like that.
So,
and of course, he wants to help you.
Oh no, it was all help. In fact, one time he came to my office, and it was in Indianapolis. I wasn't feeling good, so I had a control in my office that I could put the heat up. So I was cold, and I might have had a flu or something. So I put the heat up to probably 80. Okay, and then he said, "I'm going to stop by. I need to talk to you." So it was one of those discussions of, "Hey, let me replay how that meeting went yesterday." So he came into my office there about an hour, and the office was 80 degrees. And as he's having a wonderful discussion with me, which I always appreciated, I broke out into a sweat. I mean, drenched. And he said, I said, "Pat, I'm not feeling good. I think I put the heat up." He thought that he put so much pressure on me that I was breaking, but I wasn't.
You're just getting the sweats from being under the weather.
It was so embarrassing.
Yeah.
But great memories. I don't know if you remember here in Indianapolis, Gus Macker basketball used to come. They used to have tournaments downtown. He would play, I would play. We put a team of insurance wonks together. And he was 10 years older than me, but we actually competed pretty well. And it was a couple of people from Baltimore who knew how to play basketball as I did.
And it was a statistical game, I guess, right?
Yes. And at the end, we lost on statistics, but that's okay, too.
But I bet it was fun.
It was great. Great memories. Great guy.
Fabulous. Well, that's great. Well, I think we'll take a little break right there, and we'll come back in Chapter 2, and we'll pick up with mentoring, because I think that's a very important subject. And especially someone with your experience, I think a lot of our listeners could gain a lot of insight and wisdom, which we'd really appreciate. Thank you, John. We'll be back. Well, we're going to take a quick break right now, and we'll be back with Chapter 2 with John M. Murphy on the Omnibus Show. Hello, and welcome back to Chapter 2 of the Omnibus Show. This week's guest is John M. Murphy. And we were talking in Chapter 1 about your mentor and your mentors. Now we're going to put the hat on you, sir. What I'd like to ask you is about mentoring. And a lot of people in the audience who will be watching the show now and in the future could learn a lot from the breadth of your experience in so much has happened in your business career and all these different great companies. And you've been in insurance, and you've been with the foundations in education and healthcare. If you were to be the mentor, if you were to be Pat Sheridan today for someone going into business, what are some bullet points that you would have for a young man or woman out there, or even someone who's mid-late career and they've had to shift because, the things have changed?
Well, that's a great question. Things have changed, Dave, with COVID, and we can chat about that if
Sure.
remind me later on. But if, like, I have two kids, okay, one is a salesperson, the other one's a lawyer, and my advice to them was really simple. One, nothing replaces hard work. Okay, yeah, the harder you work, the luckier you get. I believe in that, but hard work. That has to happen. Okay. Number two, get on the treadmill early. Kind of like what happened in my career. I had no direction. God bless my grandparents. And my grandfather told me every day of my life I was going to college. Every day of my life, you're going to go to college. Got it, Pop. Going to college. Got it, Pop. When I graduated high school, guys went to the telephone company, UPS. What are you going to do? I guess I'm going to go to college. So I was brainwashed. I went to college. Greatest thing that ever happened.
Good brainwashing.
Terrific brainwashing. So get on the treadmill early. Try to figure out quicker than later what you want to be when you grow up. Kind of identify your passion. I should have been in sales. Okay, I should have been in communicating with people. I was not a great accountant. Okay, I guess I was a good accountant. I got a couple different jobs, but I didn't like it. It was not a good fit for me. I guess I thought I might have been if I stayed there, I would have been a CFO, but that would have been horrible, horrible work for me. So get on the treadmill early if you can, in the right direction. Next one is education. If you think you want to get into business or theater or healthcare or hospital work or nursing, get the education, okay? Go for it. And today, going back to COVID, things have changed. You can work from far away, okay? You can work from home. You don't have to be on site every day. And I'm working with a couple of folks in a discussion group is, do you really need a 4-year degree? I mean, if you want to be an IT person, if you took 21 credits of IT, you could probably take those 21 credits, and community colleges do that today very effectively. You can go right into work and you can get a job, you can make money, and you can make a contribution.
Yeah.
Nursing, you can go to Ball State and get a 4-year degree. You can go to Ivy Tech and get a 2-year degree. And in 2 years, you can be working. So the education part of it, I think, is important. And I look at my education. I took philosophy and all this other stuff, and it's like, I didn't need all of that stuff. To be an accountant, I needed 32 credits of accounting. If I got 32 credits of accounting, I could sit for the CPA exam. Okay, but whatever it takes, however you define it or employers are defining, get the education. Like I did. Okay, if you can find a mentor, you should. Every day should be a learning day.
Yeah,
have an opinion, have a voice, ask questions. There's a lot of common sense that go into this, and if you can learn from very bright people like yourself, I mean, I've learned a ton from you being with you for a couple of years. But learn from Dave, and then have an opinion on your own position. Okay, that's what business is looking for. Okay, they don't want to parrot. I mean, they want to parrot up front as you're learning, but ultimately, you need to analyze the business that they're in and help them move forward. Okay. And then finally, and I probably missed a lot, is do a lot of reading in your line. If you're going to be a performer or you're going to be an IT person, read the articles. The internet has given us, what a gift.
Yeah.
So many articles. I spend the first hour of my day just on my iPhone or my iPad reading articles that are happening out there. So they're the top ones. I mean, if you went into insurance, if you want to be an accountant, you probably should have a 4-year degree. If you're going to be an actuary, which is our engineers, they design the basics and the profitability of the product. You need a lot of math courses, and you probably need a 4-year degree, but some other positions don't need a 4-year degree.
Yeah.
And I think businesses are starting to recognize that and appreciate it.
Seems like some businesses, it's almost like you have to have like startup companies, you have to do a bunch of different jobs. You don't just do one job. As things become more corporate, you kind of focused more on a specific thing because just the nature of the business, that would be very much, what's necessary for that.
I can give you one funny example. When I came to Wells Fargo, I brought all my stuff with me, and some were pictures and family pictures and other stuff. So my first day in my office, the office manager came in and I said, well, who hangs the pictures around here? Oh, we'll take care of that. So I went out to lunch and I came back from lunch and there was a hammer and nails on my desk. I hung the pictures. So yeah, we do multitask in some places.
There you go. It's a good thing. Now, I was liberal arts. Later, I got into business, but I think I agree with you. Although you'd mentioned something as, with accounting, with earlier in your career, for those of us who haven't been on your track in business, especially people who are in liberal arts and everything that follows that, accounting is just, if I went back to school, that's one of the first classes I'd sign up for, because that helps everybody. And mostly what it is you're taking care of your personal finances, and you learn about, and in business, you do actually learn about, you have to learn about money, which they don't teach you in school growing up.
Well, the language of business is numbers, right?
Yeah, it is.
So if you have a good basis in that, I think you're onto something.
Yeah. But a lot of us who were in liberal arts just didn't even think in that area. So that's why it's always challenging for us. So that's very good advice.
Well, one of the things I did when I switched from being an accountant, finance person, operations person into sales, now I'm dealing with all salespeople.
Yeah.
And they're like, where'd this accountant come from? So I quickly, in the life insurance business, there's a certificate you can get, a chartered life underwriter. It's 10 tests. And each test is 30 to 40 hours of studying.
Wow.
Okay, so quickly within a year, I picked up the CLU. And then thereafter, they have a second designation, Chartered Financial Consultant, and I picked another, 3 or 4 or 5 more tests. So I quickly picked that up. So just to let the marketing people know, hey, we have about the same degrees. I think I can talk some of your language. I'm not going to get all the way there, but I'm going to help you be successful. My job is to make you be successful.
Yeah, that's very good advice. If it's like learning a language, like if you could think of as a company as the world, and every department speaks a different language, being a multilingualist is, if you're going up towards being a CEO, or even like you said in sales, the best salespeople are the people that I've met are people who can communicate with people in those different departments. And like I was in the software industry, and there's one woman was on our team. She was the best, and she knew how to talk technology because she knew it, and she was the girl next door, but she sold more than the boys, but she knew how to talk computer telephony, and with the computer and the phone, that's what we did. We kind of combined them together, and that's why she was the best.
Yeah.
So that's good advice.
Well, excuse me, on the management side, and it's what Pat did for me. You have to have a belief in people that they can get the job done. You've got to give them the job and step out of the way. And then you got to treat them like you want to be treated. That's such a big part of this. And one of the lessons I learned from Pat when we were in Baltimore, I headed up putting a new system in. And it had been aborted twice prior to Pat coming and me coming. So he said, why don't you take that project? We need this commission system put up. So it took us 9 months or a year, whatever it took. We came in under budget. We came in on time, and we got it done. So I couldn't wait. I was probably 28 or 29, 30, I don't know, to walk down to Pat's corner office, because I didn't report directly to him, and tell him we had the system put in. So I went walking down the office, and I said, hey, Pat, can I see you for a moment? He said, yeah, come on in. I said, that system's up and running. He goes, good. He said, and it's the first time in my life I was included in the us. or the we. He said, is that what we want? Well, you didn't ask me what we wanted. You asked me to put the system up. So now what he did is included me in management, like, hey, now, do we want to pay commission checks the way that's it? I don't know. I hadn't thought about that. I'll come back in a week and I'll let you know. And I came back with the changes, but that was the first time I was included in the we and the us.
Wow.
That changed my life too.
My bet is
because I would always look at myself as one of the grunts, getting the job done. And all of a sudden he's asking me my opinion if that is a financially secure system for us to be running and paying our money out to agents and brokers.
Well, that's great. So you were roped in and you became part of the we, which is always a great part of that development in that process. And also in Pathways, you've been in the insurance, and with the foundations, you've and that's great advice. Thank you so much. That's gold. With the foundations, you've been involved with education. You folks have taken Ivy Tech. Ivy Tech has just become this incredible school downtown. I mean, it's when I was growing up, it was kind of like it was night school, and it's like it has now become like its own university, particularly the one in Indianapolis. It has really mushroomed and grown into its own group, and in fact, it's taken over the old St. Vincent's Hospital building, and has taken that. So any pathway advice for those who would be pursuing education path, and then also with St. Vincent's, Ascension St. Vincent's now, in healthcare and
Sure.
medical?
Well, let me tell you just a bit about Ivy Tech. Ivy Tech is statewide. They have 22 campuses. They have probably 107, and I've been retired now, they're there 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
They probably have about 175,000 students, the largest community college in America under one license. And they graduate a lot of kids, 2-year degrees, and many of them go on to IU or Purdue. We have the same books, many places. They're adjunct professors. I'm an adjunct professor.
Mm-hmm.
Are the same people who teach at Purdue.
Yeah.
Okay, and we did a study of our Lafayette campus students that transferred into Purdue, and if they were a B+ student at Ivy Tech, they were a B+ or better student at Purdue,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty big comment. So, and you can get certificates in many like IT,
Mm-hmm.
okay, or management or accounting, and which is or many other manufacturing type jobs. Okay, so it's a great place. Our students are sometimes a little bit older. Okay, it's a great place where you can go and you can get counseling and reflect on what you want to be when you grow up.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you can really focus on the courses that you want, and you can go right into the workforce. I mean, there are jobs available. I mean, unfilled jobs. How many unfilled jobs are there in Indiana? A lot.
I hear there's a lot.
Yeah, there are a lot. So same advice. Try to get on the treadmill early with your focus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if you do, they have the broadest array of potential subjects and areas you can study, and to get right into the workforce or continue. We have kids who transfer to Harvard. Okay, kids who transfer to Northwestern, out of state schools.
Yeah.
So get on.
That's a great testimony to the school to be able to be, that broad. And then I think from what I've observed in life, and I went to school, like, I went for 4 years, but I find people that like my father who worked and went to school. I had a part-time job, but not like work. When you have to work and go to school and you're focused at, get her done, that intentionality is intensified. And so, I think the state of education is changing. It will change kind of naturally or organically, if you will. And I think the community colleges have a lot to play a part of that, where that will, at a street level, will help people, like you've just shared with us, how people are able to in a real way, pivot if they have to change or if they're starting out, that'll help them focus and keep focused.
Yeah. And yeah, think about how many online courses there are today.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't have that one. I was a classroom jockey.
Mm-hmm.
You went to a classroom, you learned how to, a guy went on the board, and today you can study, Purdue did it with their global. I mean, you could get a degree from Purdue and you're living in Singapore.
That's true.
That's pretty good stuff. Going back to mentoring, I had the opportunity and the honor of addressing our business honor students when I was there. And it was really, hey, hard work, lucky you get, but here's wonderful, hundreds of business students wondering what it's like on the outside and what they should be doing to prepare for it. And they asked me to talk to them a couple different times, but I did tell them a few times that I hate to tell you, you're all beautiful faces and you're young, but you're probably going to be looking more like this when you're older. These are the type of people that you're going to be interviewing with and working with on occasion. So you don't have to be like them or dress like them, but you have to probably meet them halfway,
Sure.
because it's two different eras, two different cultures, two different ways of doing business. But when you're hired as an employee, your job is to make that corporation, that manager, successful in what they're doing, because the manager represents the corporation,
Right.
who represents the board of directors, who represents stockholders.
Uh-huh. And it's the business,
Right.
moving the football forward
There you go.
toward the end zone. Well, that's very good. That's very good input. Well, thank you very much. And then also, having been with Ascension and chairman of the foundation, which is that's quite a group of hospitals. You're based out of St. Louis, right?
140 hospitals, the largest Catholic nonprofit hospital in the world.
Okay.
I can't tell you how many employees there are, but it's a lot.
That is a lot.
And I can tell you, COVID really took its toll on our clinicians. Our nurses worked so hard during COVID.
Well, they were full all the time, weren't they?
Full. The beds were full. And, the populations are aging, so there are retirees. So somebody retires. Now we've got to fill that job, and we've got to fill the job with somebody who knows what the heck is going on. Mm-hmm. They did an incredible job through COVID, taking care of patients, and all the other, they have a women's hospital and Peyton Manning Children's Hospital and the Heart Hospital. Mm-hmm. And they didn't blink during that time, and they did an incredible job. But it's an incredible institution, and they just do great things for patients.
Mm-hmm. And since you're kind of on the Mount Olympus of healthcare, when you're looking upon that, you've got people who are, while we're drawing wisdom and advice from you on in healthcare, and as you've mentioned, COVID changed everything, and COVID has changed the delivery of healthcare, and it's also affected business, the business of it. What advice would you have for people who were going into healthcare with the changes in if someone was, say again, they were going to they went to Ivy Tech and maybe they went to Marian or IU or one of the other nursing schools, or they went into med school, how that pathway is changed or is changing for medical people?
Well, it's a great field to go into, okay, mm-hmm. where life has changed a whole lot. We're still doing a lot of the patient care relationship, okay, at a certain level. So one, it's a great place to work. It's a great career. There's movement because of the scale of these organizations. But my best advice, and what's probably changing the world now, is technology. And I'd probably say that technology, AI.
Yeah. I was at the AI conference, which is where it kind of started in the last decade at MIT in 2015.
Interesting.
And that's when all that stuff exploded.
Yeah.
And I thought, some of that stuff was a bit like, we're going to go to Mars and we're going to stay there. And there was some of that. And then there were other people who had just these amazing ideas of for healthcare and so forth, that we're going to develop projects. But as you were saying, I think that the technology can make a really big difference.
AI is going to, it'll make huge changes. I mean, just go back to the, health records. How many times are you going to fill out, what your name, address, how much you weigh, do we have diabetes or do I take aspirin, whatever.
Right.
Every time you go to a doctor, I mean, you're refilling those forms out.
Right.
And, but think about admissions and, patient education, AI will be able to give that, saving a nurse's time where they can really spend time helping a patient with, situations that they're in.
Now, you'd mentioned patient education, and now this is more for the user side. Is Ascension St. Vincent moving more in that direction, like you said, with AI, because now more and more, because of like how COVID's changed everything, and there's a time, there's like, what's the theory language is there's time sequences with doctors. So it's more important for patients to own instead of just showing up and just doc tell me what to do, where they have to engage. Are there more programs that the patients are able to learn on their own?
Kind of like utilization of ATMs. When's the last time you've been into a bank, right? I mean,
right.
You do a lot of your work on ATMs.
Exactly.
They are. Organization like St. V's has thousands of IT folks, AI people. I know for a fact they compare best practices. They do best practices. So what they might be doing in Tennessee might not be the same exact thing that they were doing here. So those folks are getting together, comparing notes, and putting best practices in, and standardizing protocols, and making it easier on the patient to get in, get out, get the service that they need, and get the care that they need. And it's really a conglomeration of the organization's intellect and bringing it all together. It's hard to do that, okay, but most companies are scaling, okay? Anthem did it, and I'm sure United Healthcare, all of them have to do that type of thing.
Yes. Well, John, thank you so much. Best practices, that is really what you've shared with us today, just across these different fields from your experience, and that is bound to help many, many people. So thank you so much for being with us today. And we really appreciate your time and sharing your thoughts and life experience. And that's it for today's episode of the Omnibus Show. We've had John and Murphy with us, and we'd like to thank our sponsor, Hotel Carmichael. We're recording today at Feinstein's, and we look forward to being with you on our next episode of the Omnibus Show.
If you enjoyed this program, please like, share, and subscribe to continue the conversation. For the Omnibus Show newsletter, please sign up at theomnibusshow.com.